Happy anniversary, First Step! My name is LorenWadington, and I served on the board of First Step for about 12 years. Just came off about 6 months ago, and hope to be starting an advisory board for several members such as myself who didn't want to stay as involved as being a board member, but still wanted to keep active with the organization. After I'd been on the board a couple years, the shelter that used to be in Canton was pretty much falling apart. And at that point we knew that as a board and an organization we were going to need a new facility. There was water in the basement and there were various utilities that were falling apart, so we began a search at that point and realized that we were going to need more funds than we had available. My husband and I, through talking with various people at the organization, decided that we would chair a capital campaign to raise the funds for the new shelter. And at that point we still didn't know quite where we would be going, but we went ahead and started the campaign. It involved a series of community meetings. We, board members, invited people into their homes to learn more about First Step. We contacted former clients. We talked to people who had been involved in the past, whether it was through donations or a family member had been a client or someone was referred to us. We got our contacts lots of different places. And we started holding a few events, like I said, in people's homes. There was a dinner, there were some chocolate tastings and a variety of events that we used to gain recognition as well as raise funds. We had a dollar amount in mind, and then we went past that, but it also went longer than we originally thought. So the campaign really never had an end date. It just kind of, we continued contacting people and raising funds, and I think it's around $2.5 to $3 million over the whole course of the campaign. So we were able to purchase the shelter, and we've had a couple of other campaigns that other people have led since then to raise money for some of the additional facilities at the shelter. One of the biggest obstacles for me, and I think for all of us on the main committee, was that we had to be a little careful. It's hard to sell a product that is as where the people could be in danger if you talk about it too much. So we had to be a little careful, and we couldn't go to the people who were using the shelter and say, oh, come tell your story, because frequently they wanted to remain in the, they didn't want to tell their story. It was private and too personal and too painful. So that made it a little difficult because we didn't have any of those people shouting our praises. I mean, some were, but it's difficult, and understandably so. So we took a lot of people on tours so they could see the old shelter, talk about what we've been doing, how many people were coming through the program, not just the shelter, but also the program. And then to give people an idea, because I didn't know before I was on the board how many people were reached, and it's not the kind of thing you advertise like in the newspaper or something. So that made it a little bit difficult to get people on board and gain that name recognition. It's come a long way, and I think that's something we can be proud of, but I think there's still some work to be done there. Well, ideally I would hope it would close because they wouldn't need to have the shelter or the program anymore, although that's, as we know, is probably never going to happen. But for me, I think it's getting the women education and helping them get on their feet and back into the community more quickly, get the courts to understand how dangerous this is and how important an issue it is. So I think there's still a lot of education to be done at a lot of different levels, and so I think that's where going forward First Step we'll be working towards that. More education to all facets of the community. One thing we used to do, but we lost funding, but was education in the high schools, because there's a lot of date abuse that goes on that people, you seldom hear about. But we used to be able to go into the high schools in the various communities in Wayne County and talk to the students about what to do, what not to do, you know, how to avoid any kind of abusive situation. And we, because of the drying up of the funding, we haven't been able to do that, or had not. But that's one area. And then our local law enforcement, so they know what services First Step offers, local hospitals and healthcare providers who may be seeing these people, victims coming in, so they know what we can offer. I think there's still education is a key piece. I'll still, after being involved for now close to 15 years, I'll still have people say to me, oh, I don't know anything about First Step, which is always kind of painful to hear and a disappointment. But that's why I think that education and communication is key to what we have to do going forward. If you hear about it more and more, where this athlete or you know, entertainer has been arrested or whatever. So I think that certainly brings the issue to the forefront, but now some of the solutions and some of the treatment programs and options need to be made more public and let people know what exactly is available for them. Because it still, unfortunately, is one of those things that people don't want to believe, and they don't want to believe it's in their family, in their neighborhood, or in their community. And that's still a problem. So I think going forward, that's where First Step can go. Yeah, it's a personal thing for me as well. And I saw it up close and personal, and it affected me. At the time, I didn't really know, you know, what I could do, and I just watched it and hoped that this person would get out of the situation. Eventually she did, so that was a good thing. And I think that's another reason I got involved, was it became personal for me. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to do something for the community, this makes sense and this fits for me. So that's another reason I got involved. But and First Step's doing wonderful things. The shelter's fabulous. The playground for the kids, and the new area that's going to be built for the animals and the animal shelter. So clients who have pets sometimes wouldn't come because they wouldn't want to leave their pets at home. Now they can. It provides us much more storage, because frequently people in the community also want to give. They have furniture they're not using or clothes that are in great condition, and they hate to, you know, just leave them. So they want to bring them to First Step, or they want to bring diapers or whatever it is. We've never had a place to store it, and we will soon. And that's another positive thing, that we'll be able to help these clients get on their feet more quickly and provide them with, you know, again, clothing, household items. So all the growth going on at the shelter is really will benefit First Step going forward. So I think that's it. I think that sums it up pretty much for me.